Okay, recording. Good day, everyone. So good day, 2A, 2B, and 2C. So I made this pre-recorded video to compensate because we were not able to meet for our session in the laboratory last time. So partly because wala po ko yung net for 5 days. Yeah, 5 days. So kanina lang sa ato ang mag-serve sa ato ang post-lab discussion. So for midterms, we'll be having 3 experiments, namely the synthesis of aspirin or acetylsalicylic acid, methyl salicylate, and ethyl alcohol or ethanol. So the video recordings were already provided to you. So ang gagawin nyo na lang is to watch those and fill in the information in the worksheets. So for our first topic for midterms, we'll cover the first experiment, which is the synthesis of acetylsalicylic acid. This is experiment number 4. So like last time, ang trend ko sa aking post-lab discussion is um, I'll narrate the video recording, the video recording of the experiment, as well as give you the post-lab discussion using a PowerPoint rather. So I'll start with the narration of the video recording. So in this experiment, once again, experiment number 4, the synthesis of aspirin. Aspirin is chemically known as acetylsalicylic acid. Now, in this experiment, the main chemical of interest here is salicylic acid. So probably along the video recording, probably hindi ako kailangang mag-narrate because the video already says so. Alright, for the first part of the procedure, we started with your salicylic acid, and then after that one, we added acids to your to the chemical of interest. So we added acetic anhydride as well as phosphoric acid to the Erlenmeyer flask. But we had to do it under a fume hood kasi ang tendency is that when acids are added to that chemical, pwede siya mag-give off ng fume na medyo irritating sa nose and sa eyes. So to avoid that one, kaya i-perform under the fume hood. So yan siya, we started first with acetic anhydride, tapos after with the phosphoric acid. And then after quote-unquote acidification of that chemical, we heated the mixture in a warm water bath. So baka napansin ninyo ba na doon sa during heating doon sa water bath, hinahawakan ko yung Erlenmeyer flask. Dapat supposedly dapat hayaan lang siya doon sa water bath, pero ang tendency kasi na naga-boil na kasi yung water. So during boiling na nagagalaw yung Erlenmeyer flask. So hindi siya stable ba in a flat position. So kailangan ko siyang hawakan. So yun siya medyo common siya na error when it comes to when filtering. Um, Tendency puwedeng unstable yung yung setup ng funnel plus the receiver. So always jud hawakan ang receiver or ang funnel kay parehas ato ganina hapit mahulog. Okay. Now, the purpose of adding cold water or cold distilled water to your mixture or to your chemical is para lang mag-induce ng crystallization. So, ang ating aspirin kasi it is insoluble in cold water. So, ang tendency pwede siyang mag-crystallize in cold temperatures. So, ang ginawa ko dito is after washing it with cold water, dapat ang gagawin next is to dry the powder, yung powder. So, ang ginawa ko is I used filter papers para lang somewhat madry konti ang powder. Or hindi na pa siya powder, ang granules na pala. Ay water naman siya, added with water. Actually ang behind the scenes ko nito dapat hindi siya really flat talaga sa surface ng table. Dapat parang may patong pagod siya yung filter paper natin. Pero during this time ang good, medyo hapon-hapon na good ni na maghihimo. So medyo yun nagmamadali na kami. So kung ano yung magawa, yun na lang talaga. So hindi dapat siya directly sa table yung filter paper. Dapat parang may patong pa siya. So naubusan na din kami ng apparatus that time. So yung dried na granule doon, that was your final product. Tapos yung final product natin, i-subject natin siya to both physical and chemical tests para lang ma-confirm ang identity if tama ba talaga ang na-synthesize namin, if we really synthesized aspirin. Okay, for chemical tests, for aspirin, sorry. For aspirin, we have 3 chemical tests. We have reaction with ferric chloride solution, reaction with sodium hydroxide and sulfuric acid, and the reaction of the filtrate with ethanol. So actually, ethanol and sulfuric acid pala. Ang ang chemical test number 2, related siya or connected siya with reaction number 3. So itong first chemical test rather, this is the reaction with ferric chloride solution. Now, in reference to the previous experiment, last prelims, yung sa synthesis of salicylic acid, we also had a chemical test for reaction with ferric chloride solution. Now, ang ferric chloride test, it is a chemical test used to detect phenols, phenolic compounds in solution. So, dapat for aspirin, if you will check its chemical formula, dapat hindi siya mag-give off ng positive result. Ibig sabihin nito, dapat i-retain niya ang color ni ferric chloride. So, dapat walang color change na expected. Pero watch what happens to the procedure. So, by the way, the one on the left, the test tube on the left, that's your theoretical na aspirin, yung lab available na aspirin. The one on the right, that's your synthesized aspirin earlier. So, ang ginawa ko muna first is to make a solution. Okay, gawing solution mo na ang product or yung lab available aspirin before adding the ferric chloride. So in making a solution, ano lang talaga siya, estimate. Anyway, it's just a chemical test lang man. So enough water and enough powder lang na ma-add ninyo. So, ang ferric chloride solution, it is para siyang dirty yellow or yellowish in coloration. So, dapat i-retain niya ang color, which is good or true for the lab available na aspirin. So as you can see, naging violet siya. So ibig sabihin, may phenolic compound na laman ang test tube number 2. So later on, during the PowerPoint presentation, I'll explain to you kung bakit violet siya. Naging violet rather, ang test tube number 2. So we'll proceed to the next chemical test, Chemical test number 2, it is the reaction with sodium hydroxide and sulfuric acid. So similar to earlier, we had to make a solution first. So water lang, distilled water. Then we added the our aspirin. The one on the left, that's your lab available. The one on the right, that's your synthesized earlier. Now, if mapansin ninyo, medyo cluttered ang amo ang table ani na time kay yun nga, nagmamadali na din kami. Tapos, for chemical test number 2, since connected siya with number 3, so we had to prepare all of the chemicals at once para mas mabilis ang flow ng experiment. At saka medyo mahirap din tong chemical test number 2 because may involved na heating, unlike sa previous na walang heating involved. So are you familiar with yung the test tube holder, tapos yung ginagamit siya during heating? So ang purpose ng test tube holder, apart sa yun nga pag-hold sa test tube kay ginagamit din siya para mag-hold or mag-stabilize during using the water bath. So hinayaan siya sometimes while heating. So going back to the experiment, after heating the solution, we added sulfuric acid. For this chemical test, ang positive result dapat there should be the presence of a cloudy precipitate, which is true. Na cloudy precipitate ang both solutions. So nakay-reference ni mong left katong lab available. So connected ang experiment 2 sa number 3. Ang product sa chemical test number 2, dapat i-filter nimo siya. Tapos katong filtrate, katong katong liquid sa receiver ninyo, kato siya ang i-undergo ninyo ng reaction with ethanol and sulfuric acid. So it's similar to one of the chemical tests in experiment number 3. It's an example of an esterification reaction. So ang positive result dapat dito, it's based on the odor of the chemical or of the product rather. So si Jerby pa rin ang aming gipasmell nito. So third party para walay bias. So according to him, so yun according kay Jerby. Ang left, minty, ang right had a faint minty odor, which was the positive result to indicate na tama yung aming product. Somewhat tama yung product namin. So yun lang for the narration part. And for our second agenda, I'll be giving you the PowerPoint presentation of the post-lab. So medyo short lang to siya, na post-lab discussion, na PowerPoint rather. Okay, so this is the PowerPoint discussion of the synthesis of acetylsalicylic acid, also known as aspirin. So by the way, I guess the post-lab notes or handouts were already posted in the Google Classroom page. So refer lang tayo doon. So ang difference lang, it's may nilagay ako dito ng mga structures sa PowerPoint. Tapos I think may added na info as well. So I'll start. So review of the procedure. It starts with salicylic acid added with acetic anhydride and phosphoric acid in the under the fume hood. Tapos we heated the mixture. Then after heating the mixture, kay dapat siya i-cool down after. So this is the chemical reaction involved. All right. Sorry. Yan. So this is the chemical reaction involved: salicylic acid and acetic anhydride, which were the reactants in this experiment. So along with the catalyst, phosphoric acid. So in chemical reactions, ang catalysts or ang catalyst, they are responsible for speeding up or hastening the reaction process. So we have the products aspirin plus acetic acid. So diretso siya sa ating desired product, which is your aspirin. Okay? Now, all right. So these are some of the points na dapat malaman ninyo during the experiment. So we added, or rather yung one of the byproducts, di ba, sa ating reaction is acetic acid. Tapos ang catalyst, which is your phosphoric acid, was also added during the experiment. Ang both acids na ito, acetic acid and phosphoric acid, they are characterized to be water soluble. So that is why during the experiment, yung during washing good na process, yung pag-wash off doon, so it's one way of purifying your aspirin. So para aspirin na lang maiwan kasi ma-remove naman ang acetic acid. So ang cold water ang ginamit. Cold water once again because aspirin is not soluble in cold water. Tapos aside from that one, from the filtering process, ang acetic anhydride also, it undergoes hydrolysis reaction. So it will result to acetic acid. So eventually ma-filter out yung ating somewhat yung ating acetic anhydride. So technically parang pure dapat na aspirin ang ating makukuha sa experiment. So identification tests, once again, we performed physical and chemical tests. So ang physical tests, it is used to characterize the physical properties of the compound. And for chemical tests, this is used to characterize a compound based on certain functional groups, chemical reactions, and the formation of products. All right, so for physical tests, so synthesized aspirin, yung kanina. So technically, ang aspirin, it has the following physical properties: color, colorless to white; odor is odorless; appearance niya is somewhat crystalline. Pero sa ating experiment kay medyo basa-basa pa man good to siya. So medyo nagdali na mi ato. So no time for heating inside an oven. So pero dapat murag crystalline dapat ang theoretical niya na itsura. And melting point, it's around 136 degrees Celsius. Now, next part, we have the chemical tests. We have 3: reaction with ferric chloride, reaction with sodium hydroxide and sulfuric acid, and the reaction of filtrate with ethanol. All right. Now, chemical test number 1, it's the reaction with ferric chloride. Now, in the video presentation, napakita doon na ang lab available na aspirin, it retained the color of ferric chloride, whereas the synthesized aspirin gave off a color violet solution. So, bakit ganun? Bakit siya naging color violet? So, um, ang ferric chloride test, mag-give off lang siya ng positive result, which is the violet coloration in the presence of phenolic compounds like salicylic acid. Now, remember, ang main chemical of interest natin sa experiment na ito, it's salicylic acid. Ang salicylic acid itself, it has a phenolic functional group. So the main purpose of this test for reaction with ferric chloride, it's to test the purity of the sample, or rather the purity of our product. Now, the presence of a purple or a violet color in the solution, it indicates the presence of unreacted salicylic acid. Ibig sabihin nun, although minute or minimal lang amounts, if possible, ng salicylic acid sa product natin, if meron man siya, it will give off a violet coloration. So, sa ating experiment, kung maiisip siguro natin, possible nakagawa tayo ng aspirin. Pero, there are still some minute amounts of salicylic acid na nasa mixture. Kaya siya nag-give off ng violet coloration. Pero technically, dapat sa test na ito for aspirin, dapat wala siyang violet coloration. Dapat no reaction. So, yun siya ang supposedly na positive result. So, yun ha, tandaan ninyo, ang ferric chloride test, it is used to detect or test the purity of the aspirin in this experiment. All right, next reaction, reaction with sodium hydroxide and sulfuric acid. So we have the chemical reaction here, and the positive result, it's the presence of a white precipitate, which is true. So napakita doon sa video recording na merong cloudy precipitate. So ang dahilan doon, the chemical responsible for the white precipitate that formed was sodium salicylate. Okay, so ano siya? Katong white cloudy precipitate or white precipitate. Cloudy lang siya. Okay, and the last one, it's the reaction of the filtrate from chemical test number 2 with ethanol. So once again, itong product na ito, i-filter out siya, yung filtrate, yun siya ang react with ethanol and sulfuric acid. So it's an example of an esterification reaction. So ang positive result dapat it should be a fruity or a minty odor. So ang dahilan doon, it's because of the formation of an ester, which is ethyl acetate. So once again, this is esterification. It's a dehydration reaction. So we have the dehydrating agent here, sulfuric acid, that produces ester and water as its byproducts. So always dyan na pag esterification, ester and water ang products sa reaction. Okay, and the last part for this post-lab, we have the follow-up questions. Now, for follow-up, we have the first question. Give the products of aspirin hydrolysis. By the way, in your experiment worksheet ata, ang first tanong is what is the chemical reaction involved? So, ang main thing ko doon, it's more on, yun nga, yung chemical reaction kanina. Yung salicylic acid plus acetic anhydride forming aspirin and acetic acid. Okay, so going back, give the products of aspirin hydrolysis. So aspirin, when hydrolyzed, it forms salicylic acid plus acetic acid. So ang aspirin, it's an example of an ester. So looking at the functional group, this one is an ester functional group. So kapag ang ester ma-hydrolyze, it will result to an alcohol plus carboxylic acid. So alcoholic functional group, makita siya sa salicylic salicylic acid. Tapos ang carboxylic acid, makita siya sa acetic acid. Next, give the different therapeutic uses of aspirin. So aspirin, it's available in the market. So we have the following uses: analgesic, antipyretic, anti-inflammatory. It is used to treat rheumatoid arthritis, and it is an antiplatelet agent. It is used for the prevention of stroke. Actually, ang aspirin, it is also one of the recognized emergency medications during a recognized heart attack because of its antiplatelet activity. Okay, so ang nakita ko so far na available na aspirin in the market kay 80 milligrams. Okay, next, So what are the different side effects of aspirin? So aspirin, ang aspirin, it's a non-selective COX inhibitor. So pwede niya inhibit ang COX-1 and COX-2. So because of its non-selectivity sa COX receptors, so pwede siyang ma-cause ng GI side effects like ito, GIT irritation, which is the most common side effect, and ulcer and bleeding if taken for long periods of time, considering na antiplatelet din siya. So this can be minimized by taking aspirin with foods. Now, overdose or higher doses of aspirin can result to the so-called condition salicylism. Salicylism. It's a condition that is accompanied by tinnitus, which is the medical term for the ringing of the ears, decreased hearing, and vertigo. Okay, so I hope you're still familiar with this pathway. So ang ating aspirin, it's a non-selective COX inhibitor. So inhibit niya both COX-1 and COX-2. So ang COX-1, it is both of them, they are a mediator of pain and inflammation because mag-result magud sila sa products na prostaglandins. So ang prostaglandin mo na siyang responsible for pain, for inflammation. So if you inhibit the COX enzyme, hindi siya mag-give rise sa mga prostaglandins ninyo. So walang pain, walang inflammation. Ang problem lang is that ang COX-1, important siya when it comes to the protection kasi it lines yung stomach, it lines the inner membranes of the stomach to protect it from isa harmful effects ng stomach acid. So without COX-1, walang mag-form or walang lining or walang protection yung ating inner membrane sa stomach. So mo na siya mga cause of GI side effects, yung GI irritation when taking NSAIDs and aspirin. So mo na siya natay mga COX-2 selective inhibitors Kay ang COX-2, inhibit lang niya ang pain and inflammation. Wala siya labot sa linings sa ato ang stomach. Okay, so other side effects of aspirin aside from GI-related ones, asthmatic persons, ay hindi pala to, marag warnings pala to. So asthmatic person should not take NSAIDs because it can cause bronchoconstriction. So bakit ganun? Bakit related sa asthma pag gumagamit ng aspirin? Kay if you would look at the pathway, ang membrane lipids natin, it would form arachidonic acid, right? Tapos ang arachidonic acid, pwede siya mag-undergo ng either two. Pwede siya mag-proceed through the LOX pathway. Pwede rin siya mag-undergo ng COX pathway. Now, since aspirin, it inhibits the COX enzyme. So walang mag-metabolize sa arachidonic acid. So instead na sa COX siya pupunta, ang arachidonic acid, pupunta siya dito sa LOX na pathway. Since inhibited man ng COX, walang option ang arachidonic acid but to proceed to the LOX pathway. Eventually, ang LOX pathway, it will result to the production of leukotrienes, which will eventually cause bronchoconstriction. So that is why contraindicated siya in asthmatic patients. Or kumbaga, hindi siya contra, parang ano ba, use with caution rather. Kaya mga cause siya bronchoconstriction. Next, aspirin should not be used in patients with dengue and hemophilia because it's an antiplatelet agent. So, mas mag-worsen ang condition or mag-worsen rather. Next, aspirin should not be used in patients with peptic ulcer once again because it is non-selective. So, pwede niyang i-affect ang formation of the protection sa ating stomach linings. Next, aspirin should be moderately used in pregnant women but not recommended during the last month of pregnancy because aspirin can cross the placenta and during breastfeeding, it might go to the breast milk. So, avoid lang. So, preferably yung ginagamit talaga dito kay paracetamol. And lastly, aspirin should not be used in children with flu-like symptoms and chickenpox because aspirin has been associated with, when given to people with viral infection, associated siya with the condition called Reye syndrome. So Reye syndrome, it is described as the swelling of the liver and of the brain. Okay. Fourth follow-up question: what are the conditions that lead to gastric mucosal irritation of aspirin? So we have the following: history of peptic ulcer disease or existing peptic ulcer disease, overdosing, taking aspirin with alcohol, and with other NSAIDs. So once again it's a non-selective COX inhibitor. So pwede niyang apektuhan ang COX-1, which is responsible sa formation of stomach protection sa ating stomach linings. And number 5, last question, what is the storage requirement for aspirin? So aspirin storage niya, it should be kept out from the reach of children in a child-resistant bottle. Pero here in the Philippines, ang ating packaging for aspirin, it's in blister packs naman. It should be packaged in airtight containers and a place away from moisture. And aspirin is stable in dry air. It gradually hydrolyzes in contact with moisture to form acetic acid and salicylic acid. Now, this is also one of the reasons kung bakit ang aspirin wala kayong makitang liquid na dosage form. Walang aspirin suspension, aspirin solution. Kay, yun nga, it will hydrolyze to form, in solution, it will hydrolyze to produce acetic acid and salicylic acid. So, ma-defeat ang purpose sa product if i-liquid form siya. Kaya, ang available lang talaga, it's in solid form. So, yun lang for our post-lab discussion. So, thank you everyone. I hope naka-learn mo something. And I guess I'll see you for our next post-lab discussion. Our next post-lab discussion will be on the synthesis of methyl salicylate. So, thank you.